I'm Rob Liebman, and I lead MLR Services and Technology at Indegene. On this episode of MLR in the Agentic Era, I'm joined by Iris Gibbs. Iris is a global regulatory expert with deep experience in promotional review across pharma, biologics, devices, and OTC products. She leads regulatory review efforts for global clients and brings a strong perspective on compliance, risk mitigation, labeling alignment, and health authority expectations. Pretty impressive background, and obviously the expertise we're looking for. I'm particularly excited for this conversation with Iris because the regulatory review component of MLR is often misunderstood. It's not just about validating claims or hard-coded requirements. It's about interpretation, a lot of nuance, ensuring balance, and aligning to evolving guidance from various health authorities. The nuance is critical as we think about how AI-enabled MLR processes are designed, governed, and ultimately trusted by regulatory reviewers. So Iris, welcome. It's great to have you here, and I really appreciate you joining me.
Thank you. So good to be here with you, Rob. I appreciate the invitation to be a part of your podcast.
Thank you. All right, so let's dive right into some of the questions, and maybe we'll start with more of a foundational question, so our viewers could understand where we're starting from. What has fundamentally changed or stayed the same in regulatory review over the past few years? So I'm thinking about like volume, scrutiny, speed, omni-channel, AI readiness. It's really open, but what has changed and what has stayed the same as you look back a few years?
Well, there certainly has been changes over the past few years, and some aspects of regulatory review has remained the same. Specifically, the changes in risk level. Today, things that were really low-hanging fruit are now the subject of enforcement, untitled letters and warning letters. Under this new FDA, things that would not have received those type of letters are under scrutiny. Generally, what has remained the same is the due diligence that a regulatory reviewer exercises in reviewing materials and interpreting the relevant regulations. And of course, there's the increasing influence of AI and in the advertising and promotional workflow. And as you said, the omni-channel, the real-world evidence, those sort of things are making nuances that regulatory reviewers must remain agile and adapt with.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and you referenced also, obviously the untitled letters, and I recall back to, I guess it was early in the fall, I was at a promotional review conference, and I think it was 100 of the letters had just been issued several days before, and I combine it is regulatory focused with the notion that MLR is a bottleneck. So when I start thinking about regulatory reviews specifically, like where do regulatory reviews tend to slow down? So I'm considering, obviously companies are considering risk, especially as the FDA issued all these untitled letters, but where does regulatory reviews tend to slow down? Is it like certain types of assets, volume, ambiguity? Like what slows down, or what causes the regulatory review to take longer than perhaps you would even want it to?
Well, I won't say that regulatory review is the bottleneck. What I will say is slowdowns occur where there's uncertainty on the risk tolerance of an organization. So particularly when a commercial brings in the consistent with label type of analysis and claims, these claims are built on data or information that's not within the U.S. Approved prescribing information, and they may have required some additional statistical formulations to come about with a claim. These things can slow down a decision. A volume of materials always happen, right? There's always peaks and valleys. There's conferences, schedules that, the number of materials will go up, or there's a launch and the number of materials go up. But we know how to handle those things. That's standard operating procedure and normal course of business, right? But cross-functional alignment can sometimes be the bottleneck. It's not a regulatory review. It's cross-functional alignment. Is there the appropriate interpretation of the medical data, the clinical data? Is there a truthful and non-misleading statement about that data in this material, in this tactic? Or has it been so creatively presented that it's leading away from being truthful and non-misleading? So those are the things that slow us down, and having different understandings of how these claims should be presented to either a HCP audience or a consumer audience. Other considerations might be, like I said before, real world evidence, direct to consumer. We know that right now, under the Kennedy administration, and when I say Kennedy, I mean the one that's at HHS, yeah, and quality of life claims, these things are under scrutiny by the agency at this time. So those things take a little more consideration to ensure that you're protecting your company as much as you possibly can, as well as giving truthful and non-misleading information to your audience.
Yeah, so I know you're very thorough, and just to take a step back, I would never accuse you of being the slowdown in the process. So that's fair enough. When we talk about so all this effort, and obviously the content is being submitted, right? So it gets submitted through the workflow, and regulatory reviewer picks it up. What types of issues most frequently require rework or escalation? So you mentioned obviously it's got to meet all of the medical requirements, etc., all the regular requirements. But is there any types of specific issues that force that to be escalated or go through a cycle of rework and
Absolutely. Fair balance is usually the number one. The minimization of risk, the omission of risk information. Less and less risk is presented in some tactics, and that causes the slowdown, right? Because FDA expects there to be fair balance to the efficacy and benefit claims. So that will cause recycling and conversations to happen more than once. When you find that a tactic only risk is the important safety information at the end of the tactic, that's not an appropriate presentation of risk information. And so, being able to influence our commercial partners to get them to understand they need to weave the risk and safety information throughout the entire tactic, not at a single point in the tactic, can cause back and forth.
Yeah, that's helpful. Now, if we sort of digested everything that you shared with us, and we switched gears a little bit, but again, still focused on regulatory review, we know that AI, right, is the talk of a town, for lack of a better word, and we know that there's applicability where it works well, maybe where it could work better. But when you think about reg-specific review, where, or how could AI, MLR technology be most effectively used now, or what would it require to be used effectively, even if it wasn't today, but quote unquote tomorrow? Like, what's your take?
I think it could be helpful with a regulatory review in some certain aspects, such as maybe claim validation, perhaps reference linkage, perhaps labeling alignment and risk flagging. I think those could help the regulatory reviewer move a little quickly with filtering through what those, standard things they must know are there. But commercial promotional claims sometimes are based on more exploratory or post hoc and off-label data as well. There could be an opportunity for AI to assess the risk of such claims like that as well, as compared to the USPI. And the challenge of this is still there will always be a requirement for human intervention to interpret the regulatory and political environment. So the subjective things, not so much I could see AI helping on, but those things that are standard in our process of review, yes, maybe so.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I think, what I mentioned up front about, right, there's facts and there's nuance. I mentioned nuance up front. And so I get it, right, where something is subjective or it really needs human judgment. AI could be your helper, but it may not get you all the way. So that really is that open thoughts are really appreciated. When you, if we were to look ahead 10 years, if you were to look ahead 10 years from now, I think about MLR in the future, right? Do you have any projections? Like you took out your crystal ball, right? Any predictions of what regulatory review and approval may look like, 10 years?
I would say that I don't know, right? I think what we have to be willing to do is keep.
Come on, Iris, you must know.
Oh no, we have to keep learning. There is always the new tech of the day. 15 years ago it was social media. Today it's AI. Tomorrow, who knows what it's going to be? But the regulations don't change. So there's always going to be that dance between interpreting the regulations and applying it to this new thing that we call the new tech of the day. So just stay agile, stay learning, and know that the regulations, until they change, that's your guardrails.
That's probably the best advice we can get rather than some made up answers. So I really appreciate that. Iris, I want to thank you again for sharing your perspectives and expertise on regulatory and MLR in general and the evolving landscape. And I will say that, I look forward to continue our conversation as technology and AI reshape how compliant and, content moves through the process. And I'm looking forward to our conversations, whether it be offline or perhaps on another episode of the podcast. But I just wanted to thank you very much again for contributing and your time.
Thank you for having me, Rob. It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thanks. All right. I'll see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.